Hey everybody, this is Brad Dyke. How you doing? This video is going to be talking about something that this is really going to show my age. I mean, really my age. I hate to say it. It's very true. But, you know, in the world of you get your hands on stuff and you play with it and you have some fun with it and so on. And the challenges of coming across a piece of hardware that's like, ugh. So let me give you an example of what I mean. Well, everybody knows the hard drive platter of a spinning disk, right? It spits there and it spins, and little heads read it, and you've got like 3 or 2, 3, 4, or 8 of these inside, and you got a big drive, and so on. Well, before that was then the 5¼ inch disk hard drive. We'll check that guy out. He's big. This is a 3¼ This is a 5¼ Okay, or I'm sorry, 3.5. This is a 5¼ So as you can see, quite a difference, right? Who's kidding who? Let me introduce you to my big fat friend. That's right. And you notice the similarity in the surface areas? Yeah, that was the magnetic material surface they used to put on these silicon-based or aluminum-based rods, which they cut really thin and coat it with the material, and then these big heads would move up and down on these. Now the cool thing about these guys is these were actually in holders, so you would slip them down, you twist the lid and pop it off, and these would be exposed to the air, which was dangerous, by the way, and the heads would come over and do their stuff, and it took forever to get anything of value off of them, opposed to what the old 3.5 inch hard disk drive would do. And we had 2 types. We had this guy, and this has got 4 platters in it, and is 80-pin SCSI 3. See that? 80-pin SCSI 3. And these things, these are freaking fast. And this is a 32 gig allocation, by the way. And yes, if anyone wants to dispute it with me, yes, Seagate made a 181 gig SCSI 3 hard drive. It's a full height hard drive. If you ever see one of them, they're about that tall. And I got 4 of them. So, anybody wants to see that, I'll be glad to bring them. But today's battle is going to be with one of these. Now, I'll bring this in close for you to take a look at it. It's a Quantum, 20 gigs. That's it. But the secret sauce to this is this. Yeah, it's not SATA. It's not EIDE. It's IDE. Big difference. Does anybody have a cable for that? No, you don't. So, what we're going to do is over there, I built that new compatibility system right there in the white framing there. That's designed for testing SAS drives in bulk, different other kinds of class drives, basically all drives except for 2 types. SCSI Pin 80, which is SCSI 3, or also known as plug-and-play hot swappable, and the traditional IDE drive, which is also, how would you say, a dinosaur of sorts, very old. And I'm going to use this particular package here called the 7, and it is a multi-hybrid eBridge interface system, and it has, I'll show you what it has in it. It has a micro 40. It has an IDE 40 pin. It has a SATA bridge connection, and it has a flip mode connector state, which you can utilize. It plugs into a USB right here, and you also get in the package a power supply to provide the Molex power that you're going to require to run these particular types of drives. So what does a Molex bridge look like? Well, it's pretty straightforward. It's just basically a typical Molex connector you see in a motherboard, coming from the power supply of the unit, or it has a SATA power supply if necessary. And this power supply is good to have just in general because of the simple reality that the system setup here wouldn't support anything else if you didn't have the switchover for it. So it's important that you bring up the power. You have a rocker switch here for off and on, which is important because you'll need that in your diagnostics, and we're going to do that here in just a second, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. So give me a second here while I relocate our efforts here. First thing I'll do, though, for just so that you guys know, that if you look at this very carefully, you're going to see a keyed notched area, which is right up there on the top part right there. If you look here on the 40-pin connector, you have that same kind of setup. So you have to put it in a very specific footprint so it will plug in. If not, don't force it. That's a big no-no. Now, what you also want to do when you put this on the case housing of the unit you're going to test with, because you don't need to put this into a drive housing. This will do everything you want it to do, just like this. You want to put it on the back side, not the front side, because these are higher voltage and they can fry themselves real easy. Now, I don't know if this drive will post, but we're going to find out. You guys will see how that will do. And will we be successful or not? So stand by for a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stage this drive, power it up, connect it up, then power the case on, because this is not hot swappable. This ain't friendly at all. It's old school. So give me a second here while I move this over here real quick. Okay, so I'm putting the power in now. Okay, so we're ready now. So let me go ahead and grab you here real quick. Hang on for just a second. Okay, so what I've done here is I've got this connected up. The Molex connection is in place properly, and there is the IDE connector, which is plugged in. Putting my hand on it. I don't feel activity. That's good. Now I'm going to go down here to the rocker switch, bring that online. I thought I heard a spin up. Well, that could be a crap shot. I don't know. So, okay, so over here we have our USB 3.0 connected into a USB 3.0 port. We're going to go ahead and give her power. Switch to my output switch here. And we're going to go ahead and let it boot. Now remember, when you're using USB bridge connection like this, sorry for that, you are going to get no reading in the BIOS for the drive itself. Not correctly, that is, because it is a USB based boot. Now while this is coming up, I'm going to come back over here for a second, and I'm going to check to make sure my loops are good. Yes, my drive states, they're active and they're working good. The drive over here, I think it's spinning. I'm not sure. Okay, so let's let this boot. Oh, did you hear that? Listen to that. Oh, wow. That's a kiss of death right there. Can you hear it? Yeah, that drive is going south. It might actually cause my system to lock up. All right, let me change this. Okay, so we're logging in now. I'm going to pull this back a little bit farther so you can see it a little bit better. Move that out of the way. So, we're using a basic Windows 11 system. And I'm just going to go into this computer. I'm going to right click on it, select more options, because this is a Windows 11 version. I'm going to select Manage, so I can get into the disk manager. And so as you can see here, the disk manager itself is down here toward this section right here. And this drive was set to an inactive state at some time, so it has to be activated again. Now I'm seeing a delay here. Okay, here we go. All right, we have something. Okay, good. All right. It detected the drive. That's good news. It failed because of a hardware failure. So let's see what's happening here. Disk 9. All right. Properties. Now I'm doing property attributes because I want to see if it's going to report back to me any information. I'm not seeing it. It is identifying it as a serial-based device, which is probably, I think it's, yeah. Not seeing telemetry coming from the drive. Okay, it shows it's a 20 gig drive. Okay, so it deactivated. So I'm gonna send it offline. Oops. All right, so this is what we call a screaming hard drive. A matter of fact, I think it just died. It stops making the noise. Let's go check it to make sure. I'm gonna deactivate it. Reactivate it. Don't do this at home. Only professionals should do this. Yeah. Come on. Okay, so, alright. So we're going to write this guy off as a dead door nail. It's going to become a what do you call it, a paperweight? Yeah, that's it. Hang on a second. Okay, so first things first, I'll rate this device interface, the 7 device, the IDE SATA bridge USB 3.0 adapter set. It has a nice little feature right here for SATA mode versus IDE, and that's good because a lot of these that you get out there, you have to be careful. They're EIDE, so they're not going to be correctly protocol set. So if you go really far back, there are actually drives out there that won't work correctly because they are not EIDE, they're only IDE. The overall make and model on this I'll put in the link below. It's very simple, a single piece of paper. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. It comes with an extension bridge cable, which I don't have a use for it, but it's a nice feature to have. So if you can't quite get in there, you can kind of put this in there first and then bridge the connection that way. And then of course you've got a rare connector, which is an extender, by the way. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Well, actually, I stand corrected. This is not what I thought it was. I'm glad I pulled it out. This is a SATA extender designed to allow you to, again, be able to reach inside a chassis and connect up your interface. Very similar to what this cable does as well. Now, what I was thinking they had here, and I did not see it, is what we call the IDE paired power cable. This is for the 3.5 inch. If you're familiar with that, you probably are not, because that's pretty rare these days to see that. But as you look here, you have these two types of connections, the SATA and the Molex. But if you look on this hard drive, you also have a connection point here that's for the 3.5 inch floppy disk, which could go into that and provide power as well. That wasn't present with the configuration. It's rare, it's not a big deal. And unlike, like I said, this other legacy drive that's 80 pin out, everything's built into the actual connector edge, which is the right way they should have done it in the first place. I wish they had done that. And I even kind of said, hey, everybody, way back in the day, make the connector edge the only thing you need. You don't have a need for more connectors. They didn't listen. For some reason, they just didn't do it. But we do it now because SAS is the same way, by the way. If you look at SAS, it's just one edge connector. Unlike the SATA with the SATA power connector and the IDE with its own Molex connector and so on. So overall, I give this an 85, 90%. It didn't come with great instructions, actually pretty much very little. But frankly, in a nutshell, if you know IDE and EIDE, you wouldn't want to buy this. So you probably don't need the instructions. So that's why I give it an 85, 90% rating. Overall, it's a good little cheap, effective tool. I bought it for I think $24, and I always need diagnostic loop systems like that to be able to get in there and do testing on the system, because unlike today's integration, the way we did things in the past, and who knows, sometimes you get lucky and you can pull some data off of a hard drive just to see if you can. Not that you want the data, it's just that were you able to do that? Well, this was just a cute little blurb on this, using my new multi-functional hard drive benchmark workstation I built, which is in there using a motherboard very much like this motherboard here, which is basically a PC. Nothing major, nothing complicated. You can do a lot in your home lab if you just think outside the box. Well, this is Brad Dyke saying God bless, and hope you guys have a great Christmas and take care. Bye-bye.